Hello. Well, this time of year is always a bit of a worrying time, come around about sort of February, March, when we have our TB test, the tuberculosis test, and that's a whole herd test. So the vet comes out and we have to test every single animal on the farm. But this year we had a bit of a hiccup. Now this year we changed our bulls. Now we had Shuey, our big Charolais, and I decided to go for a much easier calving bull. So we went for an Aberdeen Angus. Well, before we could move Shuey, our Charolais, off the farm, he had to be tested. So the vet came out, Becky, and she obviously injected Shuey, and then came back 3 days later, and he was clear. Now once he's clear, you've got a 60-day window then to move him off the farm, and so that's what we did. But then equally so, we've brought Gerald, our new Aberdeen Angus, and he had to be tested, so he came back on. Now, our whole herd test fell within that 60-day period of when Gerald came back onto the farm, so he can't be retested, so he's not retested again. Now, the rest of the herd are run through the race. This year, we've actually used a new layout that I had a grant for actually to put in, and it's called like a forcing gate, we call it. And what it is, you put the cows into the pen, and then you've got a gate that swings behind them, and it works on a ratchet, so the cows can't come back. So you put 3 or 4 cows in, and this gate clips round, all the way around, and you hear it clicking as it goes, and it holds the cows up there. I mean, what it does, it saves a lot of effort and safety on my part. I mean, in previous years, what I've had to do is walk amongst them and push them physically up the crush. Anyway, the cows then walk up what we call a race, and then they go into what we call the crush. And what the veterinary does, she comes up and she injects them with what we call a dead vaccine, so it's not a live vaccine. Now, she makes a couple of clips with a pair of clippers, taking off the hair. She takes a measurement of the skin, then she injects it with this dead vaccine. And what she's looking for next time round is a reaction to it. If the cow has TB or has had TB, then what you do is the skin will thicken and get much larger, have larger lumps. So she takes a skin measurement the first time. Each cow has got an individual number, so she records it against that. And then when she comes back again, 3 days' time, she'll re-measure it. And then she gets some idea then of what the reaction's going to be. So if cow reacts to it, the measurements will be a lot thicker, and potentially that cow could then have TB. Now there has been some outbreaks on the forest this year. Some herds are in what we call radial testing. So they have to test every 6 months. Now you can imagine the problem that causes, because the animals are then turned out on the forest, then had to be brought back in again. Well, this year, had the results back, and lucky at this stage, we were all clear. We did get a pass. But then about 2 days later, I had a phone call from what we call the Animal Plant and Health Agency. Now they're like our government body, they work within DEFRA, and they look after all the TB testing in the area. Well, when the phone rings from them, you almost guarantee I've done something wrong, I've filled out a form wrong, I've done something that's not quite right. Well, this time they rang up and said, you missed out 2 cows. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, we've done the whole herd. I mean, I'm not sure how that could be. Anyway, so I then phoned up Becky at the vet to say, look, I've had a call, explained that we've missed these 2 cows out, and she couldn't understand it either. So what we did, we had to go back through, and each cow's got its own identification number. So we had to go back through, check the numbers, check to the list that Becky had worked on, and we all seemed fine, absolutely clear. Well, then about 3 or 4 more phone calls later, and probably about a good hour on the phone, I actually got to the bottom of it, just about. The penny dropped. These 2 little calves that are behind me that I brought in because we had lost a couple of calves, unfortunately, in calving this year, so I brought them in to put on the cows. They missed what we call the deadline. Each calf doesn't have to be tested if it's under 42 days. Well, what happened, these 2 calves behind me came in, and Becky, being efficient, ran her list off of all the animals on the farm, and at that point, those 2 animals were under 42 days. Well, what we didn't realise, at the time the test came round, they were over the 40-day period. Now, they've been retested, They're clear, thank goodness, they've passed. But sometimes these sort of things don't do very well with your heart. Gives you a bit of a murmur at times, a bit of a worry. But anyway, we've passed on that score, and really good news is we've got an all clear for the next 12 months. Well, anyway, look, thanks so much for watching. It's good to talk to you as usual, and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.